Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. The SNP is being asked a very serious question. Why did £160,000 of COVID relief cash get given to the Chinese Communist Party? This is a lot of money that would have saved quite a few businesses an awful lot of stress. But instead of spending the money wisely, like anyone normal would do, and of course this is the SNP, so the term normal is relative, they instead gave it to a load of Chinese restaurants with direct links to the CCP. Why? Where was the oversight? Why did they do it? Who authorised it? And who is ultimately going to pay for it? And should the SNP be expected to pay it back out of their coffers back into central government? I think so. My own view is yes. If they're the ones that have given it away, they are the ones ultimately responsible for refunding it. Let's take a look at this article to find out why they decided that this was such a great idea. God help us all. You know, not a day goes past when I can't find things that are showing up the SNP as inept and stupid. And in this case, possibly even criminal. I mean, why would they be doing this? Why would they be handing cash, COVID relief cash, to the Chinese state? It is ridiculous. Anyway, the SNP are told to explain why 160,000 in COVID cash was handed to Glasgow businesses with links to the Chinese state. Glasgow venues alleged to be intimidation efforts from the Chinese government were helped out with thousands in funds reserved for struggling businesses. And I don't think the Chinese government can consider itself to be a struggling business. The SNP is being told to explain these decisions that led to more than 160,000 in business funds being handed to Glasgow restaurants with suspected links to the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. Responses to Freedom of Information requests by Scottish Conservatives confirm that the Loon Fung, well, we know that there's a lot of loons in the SNP, but the Loon Fung and Sichuan House in the city's Sauchiehall Street each received £82,525 during the pandemic. It has sparked allegations of naivety on the part of local councillors who allocated funds and ministers who didn't spot the potential harm. I don't believe this is naivety. This is criminal ineptitude. They need to be held personally, financially liable. To do this and to not check where the funds are going, it's inconceivable. But then what do you expect? This is the SNP, whose idea of doing a good job is not getting caught. The payments made between December 20 and January 22 were handed to an alleged base for a secret police station acting on behalf of China's communist regime at Loon Fung. Spain-based human rights organisation Safeguard Defenders has also said that Sichuan House has links to the Chinese state. They have been quoted as saying Loon Fung is merely a phone number or a front to act as a contact point for the Chinese to make inquiries. The situations are allegedly used to intimidate and silence dissidents. Well, you know, you've got to admit that this kind of thing where you're creating a secret state, you're creating businesses designed to work below the radar that are there to intimidate people, to silence people who would speak out against the government. Well, to be honest, it's exactly the sort of thing the SNP are going to back. It's exactly the sort of thing they'd love to have themselves. The one thing they can't abide is dissidents, people gainsaying what they want, people going against their particular brand of mad politics. So yeah, I can see why the SNP thought this was an excellent idea, and they're probably jealous that they didn't think of it themselves. Anyway, in this instance, the SNP-run Glasgow City Council administered applications and determined if the criteria were met, but it passed on the responsibility to the Scottish Government when they declined to respond to the questions. So it was the SNP's council that authorised this, but when they found out that the questions were too hard to answer, they said, "Oh no, you better ask government." Well, these councillors need to be held personally responsible, and they need to find the 83,000 for each of these businesses between themselves. They need to have a bit of a whip round and repay it, and then that way justice can be seen to be done. But I suspect the money is not ever going to be seen again. It was the SNP government that set out the eligibility criteria for businesses that were not able to open during lockdowns. Now remember, this is a devolved act. This is not Westminster. This is entirely down to the SNP. No matter how they're going to spin this, it is not, the Westminster government that's done this. It is them and them alone. It is up to the SNP to get that money back from these people. And until they get it back, they must pay the money into central government and then try and get it back to themselves. It's their problem. They've done this. Scottish Conservative MSP Russell Findlay is asking all SNP officials to provide answers. He said, it's important to know what due diligence was conducted prior to this public money being handed over. Who gave these grants the go-ahead and why? Businesses across Scotland were devastated by the financial impact of the pandemic and were often left waiting for support by the SNP government that was too busy not doing its actual day job. They might well question why more than 160,000 was paid to businesses with suspected links to the Chinese state, which has a despicable human rights record, crushes dissent and outlaws free speech. It's exactly the same as the SNP. My God, it's unbelievable, isn't it? In an embarrassing moment for the former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, everything's embarrassing with this party, isn't it? She was called a useful idiot for getting close to the Chinese organisation, which MI5 warned was seeking to infiltrate the UK politics. But she won't listen to the MI5 because that's British and not the Scottish I5. Because she hates everything to do with Britain. And so everything they say is wrong. At the moment MI5 warned her against it, she's going to go, screw that, I'm going to go with them because hopefully they'll damage Britain. That is how twisted this woman is. Well, it's your money, Scotland. You need to go to her, knocking on her door and demand that money back from her and Murrell. Mr. Russell added, the SNP appears to be worryingly naive about the motives of China towards Scotland. Weakening the UK is clearly in the interest of Beijing. The Scottish Government has been asked to comment and the GCC declined. Well, of course they will, because what are they going to say? Yeah, we gave this money to the Chinese government because we are fucking stupid. Because it's either inept stupidity or it's deliberate. It can't be both. It's got to be one or the other. So what are they? Are they traitorous, anti-British people working in cahoots with a foreign government to break up the United Kingdom? In which case, get them to the tower and do them for treason. Or are they just completely stupid wankers who need to be thrown out of office and never allowed to have power again because they're incapable of wielding it? Well, let them make that choice. What are they? Traitors or dickheads? Anyway, I think both, actually. I think you can be both. Anyway, I'm going to come up and we'll round off the video. Bunch of arseholes, really. Well, you know what it's like. You make one underhanded payment to the Chinese government, then 20 minutes later, you feel like making another one. There is serious questions to be asked. Why on earth did Nicola Sturgeon's government authorise this? She must answer these questions. This is down to her. This was her policy. She is ultimately responsible. If she is aiding and assisting enemies of the state, then all of a sudden these charges of bribery and corruption or, fraudulent use of funds pale into insignificance. The charges must be increased to treason, because that is the general direction of travel of this woman now. It is getting worse every day. Did she deliberately help China? Did she deliberately do this to weaken the United Kingdom? Because if it's true, it is treason. There is no other word for it. If it is just simple stupid ineptitude by some local government official, then that's fine. That's almost, it's not fine, that's the wrong word, but it's understandable because we understand how stupid the SNP are. But it doesn't mean they can get away with it. We must go back to find out who actually made that payment and reclaim that money. But I would love to see Nicola Sturgeon up in a court for treason. It would make my day. I mean, fair play to the Chinese government. They're getting away with something the SNP would love to get away with and never will. Because people like us keep an eye on them. And that is why I ask you to please hit that subscribe button to keep us being able to look at them and keep an eye on them. And then ring that bell and then share this video and give it a like. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, do not give money to the Chinese Communist Party, and goodbye.